This is Morgan Freeman, and you are listening to one of the most important podcasts ever made in the history of podcasting, the Pocket Party Podcast with my good friend, Darren Carter.
Everybody listen to Darren Carter. We all know that he's a party starter. So if you want to listen to a podcast for free, listen to our Pocket Party. Pocket Party.
Everybody listen to Darren Carter. Yeah. We all know he's the party starter. So if you want to listen to a podcast for free, listen to a Pocket Party. Pocket Party. Darren.
Pocket Party Podcast. It's my favorite podcast. The Pocket Party Podcast.
Get your jollies. What's up, guys? We are back. That's right. Let's start that party in your ear hole. Man, I'm feeling good. I got up early. It's the last week of school that my son will be going to that elementary school. So I made sure I got up early and I walked with them and we watched the assembly and the kids played. It was awesome. They did a special thing. The kids, they were in a band, not my son, but there was a group of kids that did a band performance and they played Seven Nation Army by the White Stripes. Doom, 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 doom. I'm going to Wichita. The Blair Wichita Project. Yes. That was a joke I did when I was in Wichita once. Back when that movie came out, I'm like, it's the Blair Wichita Project. But so what else did they play? They played that. They played We Will Rock You. Boo, 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 boo. They also played, what else did they play? I love rock and roll. Put another dime in the jukebox, baby. Joan Jett. And I got a question for you because it was really awesome. I was like, hey, these songs are all in my wheelhouse. I know all of these songs because there's nothing worse than once you get a little older and you get over 40 and you're like, I don't really recognize the songs anymore. What are you guys playing? What are you dancing to? What is that? Is that Drake? What is it? I just assume everything's Drake. Is that Drake? Is that Drake? And if it's a female, is that Cardi B? And then Halloween, you're like, for me, I don't watch a lot of Marvel movies. Not yet, but maybe after last week's episode with Mike Black, I will. But I'm like, what costume is that? Who are you? Can you just be Superman, Spider-Man? Costumes I know. Be a vampire, a mummy, a werewolf. I'm a video game character. What are you? I don't know. Can you at least be Pac-Man? Wow, 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 wow. Side note, if you want to make the Pac-Man noise, put your finger in your ear hole, take out your earbud, and you wiggle it back and forth, like up and down, and it sounds just like Pac-Man. Ladies, when you do it, it'll be Ms. Pac-Man. All right, let's play a game. Ready? What year did Queen release We Will Rock You? You got 5 seconds. The year was 1977. What year did Joan Jett release I Love Rock and Roll? The year was 1982. By the way, I missed all of these. I kind of knew roughly, but I didn't get them. What year did the White Stripes release Seven Nation Army? Doom, 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 doom. 2003. 2003. Have you guys ever heard the Oak Ridge Boys version? It's pretty good. You know that group that sang bow bow giddy up, hi ho silver away. They do a pretty good song. They do a Seven Nation Army. Okay, what year did they release Beethoven's Fifth? I was totally off. I was surprised. It came out sooner than you would imagine. 1808. He composed it from 1804 to 1808. It came out in 1808. Who would have known? Did you know if you slow it down, Beethoven's Fifth, It's the Judge Judy theme song, right when she goes to commercial. Da 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 da. Maybe not if you slow it down. I don't know. What am I talking about? Anyways, we have a great show this week. Paul Rodriguez, it was awesome to go to his house. He lives in the hills in Hollywood. On this side, it's great. It's so cool. You go up. I mean, I've been there before several times, but it was just, I don't go there that often. So when I go there, I'm always just, it just takes my breath away. I love it because it's not like some places you go and they're really hard to get to, and you're just like windy road. This one isn't that hard to get to. But once you're there, you're like it's like its own little paradise. It's amazing, And he's so cool. I text him, I'm here. Make sure I got there a little bit early. And then just magically, these double gates just open. You pull onto the property. It's a giant, big backyard driveway with mosaic and trees that go up 30 feet. Trees and brush. He has a swimming pool. It looks like you're on Welcome to Fantasy Island. It's beautiful back there. Very peaceful. Paul's a great guest. Great stories, man. So many things we dive into, and he's awesome. Before we do that, I want to do a shout. I want to thank everybody who's donated. You go to darrencarter.com/donate, and I really appreciate that. I want to give a shout out to Vertigo Dragon, Wendy Marie, A.K.A. Awkward Cougar. I want to shout out to Rems. Rems is the man, and also Mike Bagak. Mike Bagak, you're the man, baby. I want to thank Mike for your wonderful donation. I'm going to read this again. Guys, there are 3.4 million people living with epilepsy in the USA. 470,000 are children. Currently, there is no law in the state of California to protect children with epilepsy. Sam's Law was written to educate schools and teachers about epilepsy. Please urge your state politicians to support this law that helps fight the stigma of epilepsy. To find out more about epilepsy and Sam's Law, go to samslaw.org. Samslaw.org. Guys, it's really cool. I've been doing this podcast now. I believe this is episode 59, and we're becoming like a nice, cool little group out here on the internet and in the world, right? I look at the stats where people are listening, and it always amazes me. I'm like, okay, I figured that, your friends and family, that's where you start. Maybe people that have seen you at shows. And then you realize, like, wow, I've never been to some of these places, so there's no the only way they found out about me is either through a friend or the internet or something. We have listeners of the Pocket Party Podcast in United States, Canada, Australia, United Kingdom, Germany, France, Netherlands, Sweden, Ireland, and Croatia. And there's more countries after that, but it's such a small amount of people. If you're in one of those countries, let us know. It says below 1%, so I don't know if it's just, I don't know. Maybe somebody had a layover and they're at the airport and they downloaded it and moved on. Anyways, let's start that party in your ear holes and get your jollies. I want to ask you guys this. If you guys are into Reddit, can you please post some of my podcasts on Reddit? I don't know how to do it. I mean, I kind of know how to do it, but it won't allow me to do my own podcast. It knows that it's the same. It won't allow you to do it. So I talked to Sam Tripoli. He's my go-to guy. He's like, yeah, have your listeners do it. Have the fans of the show podcast. Go to Reddit and post links, and maybe, especially if they've already been posting on Reddit, because you can't be like a first-time poster and be like, Paul Rodriguez is on, and it's like they always deny it. But like if there's somebody that was on and you liked it, and you'd be like, I like when they talked about blah blah blah, or if you want to put like the Brody Stevens episode, I really feel like a lot of people should hear that. That'd be great. Whatever you guys want to do, go to Reddit. Post the link, say a little something, and get it going. And anyways, let's start that party in your ear holes.
Pocket Party.
And we're back. Very special guest, Mr. Paul Rodriguez. How are you today, Paul?
Well, some days are better than others, but this is a good one.
Can I just tell you, I've been wanting to get you on this podcast ever since I started this podcast, this version, and it's been over a year, and our schedules finally aligned. The stars have aligned, and it's great to be here. For the listeners, I'm in his home here in the hills, and it's everything you would imagine a comedy legend to live in. It's beautiful here. It's beautiful.
Well, I do my own gardening, so I got experience.
Yeah. Man, you're like one of the most quick-witted comedians out there. I opened for you recently. We were in Burbank, and they go, okay, they're adjusting the times. How much time do you want to do? How much time do you want to do? And they go, okay, so Paul, how much time do you want to do? And you go, I don't know, I'll do like 60. And they go, when do you want the light? And you go, I don't know, like 50. And then you go, what did you say? You go, that gives me 50 minutes to do my act and 10 minutes to apologize.
It takes about that long to apologize for a 60-minute act, but it was a good show. It was Mother's Day, Mexican Mother's Day, the May 10th. And, it was a special day. I see a lot of ladies come out there, and you did a great job, by the way.
Thank you. That was, man, you did a special touch. Like, it wasn't just stand-up. You did stand-up, and then you added, like, an extra, like, Mother's Day touch with the family stories and the stories about your mom. And
Oh, yeah, basically that's what you have at the end of life. You have a bunch of stories you have about your family. My mom was very special to me, so I'm sure everybody's mother. I know that not everybody had a great mother. There are those people that didn't have terrific moms, but I happen to have had one, and she lived to be 96.
That's
she passed
great.
away, and she left a lot of memories that I guess will follow me the rest of my life.
I met her once. You were. I was lucky enough to do a tour with you, and
That's
I remember
right.
when we stopped by, and I saw all the people at the house, like,
Yeah.
and the just a
You're
big
from my neck of the woods.
Yeah, that's right, the Valley, man, California, Fresno, and it was cool. I saw the bust of your father, like this little statue,
Yeah.
and I met your mother and your nephews and stuff. And
Yeah, we
man,
multiply a lot.
can I tell you that thing you said was so good, man? You said something about your mother. You go about the jewelry.
Yeah, my mom wasn't a big jewelry. She didn't have a lot of bling, and I remember going to a wedding over there in Sinaloa, and all my aunts, they like to put on everything they own. And my mom had a small little pair of pearl earrings my dad had got her, and she treasured those. And I always would make fun of her, saying that she married the wrong man. She didn't have enough bling, so you should have married somebody else. And she said, well, if I would have married somebody else, I wouldn't have had you.
Ooh.
I said, well, okay, you got me on that one. Touche. But my mom and dad had a relationship for almost 50 years, 3 years shy of their 50th anniversary.
God bless you.
My dad decided to, leave this earth, and she was devastated. She went through a terrible depression, as I'm sure all couples go through if they've been together that long. And so I took the rest of my life to try to keep her interested. I would always try to make her laugh or try to distract her from thinking about the sadness of losing my dad.
Yeah.
But
I love that line you said about some women have jewelry, and then other and then something like that. Like,
let me get it right so Carlos
Yeah.
Mencia will take it.
I know. Yeah, he's gonna be listening. Carlos, if you're listening,
If you're listening, get it word right.
It goes like this.
It goes like this. It goes. Some women wear their jewelry, and others raise them. And to my mom, all her kids were her jewels, and she really treasured us, treated us like the most important thing in her life. And I guess we were. It's she left a lot of fond memories. I was the last one of her brew, and she had me late for a woman. She had me she was around 36 when she had me, and she lived to be well into my 50s, which would make her right around 80 something, and then she passed away a few years after that. So she lived a long time. If you really think about it, my mom lived when there were no airplanes to when a man landed on the moon. So that's quite a trajectory of technology, and she would always tell us how the future was too complicated for her. And as a young person, you don't know, but now I'm at the situation where, like, if you have anything wrong with your computer or you have problems texting, you just tell your 10-year-old granddaughter, and she knows. Oh, Grandpa, here's what you do. You press here, you do this, and you do that. And to us, it's very complicated. But
yes, my son, he said something the other day. He goes, "When I propose to a woman, I'm just gonna send her I'm just gonna text her an emoji of a ring." Of a wedding ring, right?
An emoji of a ring. Well, that's a lot cheaper. I wish I would have had that. I still had to run out and get me something.
I know.
But
I remember when I bought my wife's wedding ring. We've been married 21 years.
Yeah.
And then because the women always say that thing. They go, "Oh, I don't want it to be too big. It's going to get cut."
Well,
in my
if it's
hair."
small, they'll notice.
Yeah, exactly.
What, is this what I mean to you?
I know. And she's like, she of course she liked it, but then once we got to after a while, she was like, "Gosh, what did you?" She goes, "How long did you spend shopping for the ring?" And I'm like, "Well, I mean, I went to 2 stores." And she's like, "What did you see at the first store?" And I was like, "A long line."
Yeah, a long line and a big number. I remember when I bought a wedding ring. I think the rule of thumb is 3 months labor.
Yeah,
3 months work.
3 months of your salary.
Well, 3 months of my salary would have been a whole lot, so I had to cheapen it down. So I went down to a jewelry shop that my accountant knows down at the Los Angeles on Broadway, and I learned a lesson there. They had a diamond, and he put 2 diamonds and told me to look at them through this glass, and he said, "Which one of these is zirconia?" And I looked at one, and it had a little flaw, a little crack, and the other one was perfect. Mm-hmm. And he asked me which one was real, and I said, "Well, obviously the perfect one is the real expensive one." And he said that no, the one with the flaw was the real diamond. The perfect one was man-made. And he said that people, just like diamonds, nobody's perfect.
Interesting.
And that's
good.
That's why it costs so much. And I said, "Well, if this one has a flaw, don't you think I get a discount?" And he said no, and I wound up paying 3 months' salary. So she made out like a fat rat in a cheese factory.
Wow, that's a good line about the diamonds. I have a friend that he does the podcast sometime. His name is DeResta. He does homemade furniture and handmade furniture. Mm-hmm. Not homemade, but handmade.
Well, he's got to make it somewhere. It could be his home.
Exactly. And so I think somebody bought a table once and it was a little wobbly and things weren't even. And he was like, and he goes, no, this is called handmade. That's what you get when you get like the, you know what I mean? He kind of, that was his way of saying like, I know there's some flaws, but like, come on, Well,
you never want to get foot-made tortillas, because they don't come out right. But
I know.
Homemade tortillas is wonderful applause. And
by the way, guys, we're sitting at the Tiki Bar here in the backyard. If you hear some ambiance, some wind chimes, some wind blowing, some dogs barking.
This is home.
This is nice, man. This is relaxing.
I made it good. I've been here almost 20 years, and I got my garden just right. And this little barbecue area where we're at, it was also handmade. That's why the bricks are all out of line and out of whack.
That's right.
But I spent a lot of wonderful times back here.
Let's start with comedy. Like now, the first time that I saw you, my first recollection would have been, I want to say it was like either 1983 or 1984 when A.K.A. Pablo came out.
Yeah.
And I remember I was in school, I was in 9th grade, and all the kids were like quoting the lines, and they must have showed the commercial so much, and it was amazing. And it was called, from what I remember, it's called A.K.A. Pablo, and it was hilarious.
Also known as Pablo.
Yeah.
There's a story about a guy trying to make it in show business, and his father didn't care for him to be a comedian. I think all fathers really want their kids to do better than them. And my father didn't know anything about show business, and he often would tell me, he goes, "How in the world are you gonna get into a comedy? You don't play the guitar, you don't sing, you don't entertain. You just walk around and act silly." I said, "Well, there's a market for silliness, Dad. And he really didn't understand what I did, because my father's idea of earning your keep was to have your hands filled with calluses and your brow with sweat.
Right. Yeah.
It's hand labor. And I said, "Well, Dad, I go up there and I act a fool and they pay me." And he said, "Well, what do they pay you? They pay you $1 a joke, or how does that work?" I said, "No, I just go up there for about 10 minutes and then they do me right, And I was fortunate. He actually made it quite fast for people who are in show business. You got to wait years. I think I was parking cars at the Comedy Store for about 3-4 months, and then I got my big break. And after that, the money rolled in. I bought them a farm, and I started spending like crazy, and that's why I'm in debt today. This is the American way.
That's all right, though, man. You got that ball and you ran with it. I
ran with it, and I never looked back.
How long do you think you did stand-up before you started getting that big break?
Well, I was doing stand-up. At the time, it was really the golden age of stand-up. It was the Comedy Store. On any given weekend, you could see, I don't know, Robin Williams was at the height of his success with Mork and Mindy. And you had the Unknown Comic, which really was one of the biggest comics at the time,
huge.
Murray Langston.
Yeah.
He'd go on that Make Me Laugh show with Bobby Van, and guys like Mike Binder and
these were all guys that we would imitate as kids.
Yeah,
you'd see him and you'd be like, "Oh no, Mark and Mindy, more Culling Orson, coming Orson," and then the unknown comic. I remember
with a bag over his head.
Yeah, my foster brothers and I, or my friends, we would put the bag over their head and do little silly jokes and all that stuff.
Let me see. Then Howie Mandel came into the picture with that medical glove he put over his head, and these are wonderful guys. These are big time stars. I remember Mitzi with houses up over the Comedy Store. She had a house, and at one time there I was roommates with the likes of Jim Carrey and let's see who else was over there. Sam Kinison, who's always tearing down the place, and you had Dice Clay and all the big guys there, and it was quite a story. Somebody should do a series. I think Jim Carrey did a series not too long ago on Showtime about that.
Yeah. So I mean, supposedly they took liberties with it, and it wasn't exactly the same. But
they would have never done it when Mitzi was alive. She always wanted to do something like that. But I'm glad it got done. It wasn't exactly how it was, how life I remember. But I watched the show, and it was pretty good. Sorry to see it gone.
Man, you were. It must have been like almost like a kid in a candy store, just being like, wow, you're with all these people, you're in those lineups, you're performing, and then you get the break, and then now you're on television. That must have just blown everybody away, like your family, like, wow.
It was weird. I remember I was living on Vermont and Western, this area there is on the corner of Crack and Hoe Street, right there. It's still like that. Yeah. Had these apartment buildings, and I used to go to this liquor store run by this guy from the Middle East, and he would always look me and he says, what do you do? And I said, well, you're going to hear about me one of these days. I remember the day it premiered, I was on the cover of the USA Today. It had a picture of me there, and fame came really quickly, and all of a sudden he was all excited. He goes, hey, that's you right there. Why did you tell me you were in the show business? I said, well, you would have charged me more for the groceries. So
I know, right?
I kept it between us.
Yeah.
But it's really strange, being famous, even at a minor level, being famous is very intrusive, All of a sudden, ordinary things become difficult. You can't go out to the beach or go shopping or whatever. People start staring at you. Being famous is like walking around naked. People stare at you, and not all stares are good. Some stares are like, this guy's got a very ugly body or whatever it is. But
like when you get recognized, it's like I feel like it's sort of like all of a sudden we know what it's like to be a hot girl, because then people will actually go out of their way to be like, hey, I just want to talk to you and say. I mean, they'll go out of their way, they'll stop what they're doing and come after you. But and I'm only at a certain level. I can imagine, when you're on the cover of like magazines and stuff like you are.
It was, everybody had a peak. I think right around early '90s, I had at my peak. Born in East LA had come out, and all these other movies had come out, and you start having children, and then you worry about them. There's a lot of crazy people out there, but
blanket. You put the blanket over their head.
Yeah, like blanket and stick them out there. But I had my son, two sons, but my son Paul.
Put a blanket on your head and ride the skateboard.
He's very well known. My kid is a world champion skateboarder, and he handles his fame pretty good. And I'm glad I had him because he takes care of my taxes. So be good to your kids, or else they won't pay their taxes.
See that jewelry, man? Your mom taught you a great lesson. That's amazing. That's awesome.
These are things you have in your past. It's amazing how time goes by. I was talking to you at that gig, and I said, "How's the baby?" And you go, "Well, it's 11."
I know.
Boy, how time flies.
I know. And people thought I was joking. I go, no, he really is 11.
He really is 11. And
yeah, it's weird, right? Because you may show him a picture. You may show somebody a picture of like, here he is at 2, then 4, but then you kind of forget, and then you're still picturing this toddler, and you're like, what the hell, 11?
11 is a great age. You could take him out with you, and you don't need a babysitter.
Right.
It's a great age.
It's great. We like my wife.
We're out here near the airport, by the way, folks. There's incoming.
Channel 9. Yeah. Here they are, looking for Paul Rodriguez.
They're searching.
Carter.
I don't know who's my neighbors. I know some celebrities live around here. Maybe.
Oh yeah, doesn't Eric Estrada lives nearby?
Up the street, and
wasn't he on Dancing with the Stars or something?
He was. He was on Dancing with the Stars. He's got a rhythm, and I was asked to be on Dancing with Yourself. It's a show about shut-ins. You know,
the music, the theme song is with Billy Idol. I'm dancing with
myself with one red shoe.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, but yeah, he's 11, and like my wife says hi, by the way.
Yeah.
And we probably later after this podcast, my wife and son, after his taekwondo, we like to take a little trip and we go play air hockey.
Yeah, you play air hockey with your kids?
Yeah, the little, they're at that age where it's they're like you said, you could play air hockey, and it's like
they start asking you questions about the important questions about girls and all that.
Yeah,
he's got a girlfriend.
Yeah, he has crushes. He has like crushes on.
Thank God, that's one of those. That's one of the things that keeps you up at night. You know, is he gonna like girls, or is there gonna be a picture of the Backstreet Boys in his room? I'd be worried.
Yeah. I know he likes this one girl, then he changed this other girl. Now he's like
he's a player.
Yeah, he doesn't. It's funny, and he plays music, so it's kind of like what's great is when a kid play, he plays the piano, and he's like I was playing the music at lunchtime, and the kids gathered around the piano, and they started. So it's kind of cool. Like
so, he's got the bug, huh?
He's got the bug, and he can play the music, and
he's gonna be in show business.
Yeah, he did the theme song for our podcast, and
whoa, is that him?
Yeah, that's him.
Oh man,
and it's cool. And I put it out there on the podcast. I go, hey, if anybody wants to, if any musicians out there want to cover my son's version, and somebody sent one in from the Netherlands, Jim Bryan Music, and somebody sent one in from Nashville, Curtis Marsh Music.
Wow.
And Miguel Romero sent two versions, a reggae version, and then like a slow jam version.
Man, pretty soon them residuals are gonna start rolling in, huh?
Yeah, you gotta. Yeah, but for now, it's fun. He likes it, and it's like we're just having a ball.
Man, I'm always amazed how big DJs are. This is the era of the DJs.
Yeah, they just take other people's music.
Yeah,
right?
you go to Vegas and they have these people you never heard of. You go, wow, Dead Mouse. Or, what's a dead mouse?
Yeah.
And a Fleeter Mouse. And I was at the MGM and they have pictures of. I go, what is this guy? Who is he? I've never heard of him. But they sell out arenas and stuff like that. Maybe we were in the wrong business.
I know.
But you got to do what your calling is in life.
So I wonder if there's because DJs take other people's music and make a living off of it. I wonder if there's comedians that could take other.
There are. I think we mentioned one already. They cover. It wouldn't be something if you could cover other comedians. All right, I'm gonna do the best of Rodney Dangerfield.
Okay. Yeah.
There was a guy that I got to know very well. Rodney Dangerfield, man, he is so missed. He was such a happy-go-lucky guy. I remember him telling me how angry he was that he hit fame late, in his life. He was in his 50s, 60s, because he wanted to hang out with the young guys, but age has a way of mellowing you out. But he was truly one of the greats. And speaking of one of the greats today, I just heard that Tim Conway passed away.
I saw that. Yeah.
Tim Conway passed away, and I actually worked with him one time. I went to I did a show at Harvard with him, Meeting of Minds.
Really?
Yeah, we were walking down the campus in Harvard, and it was Tim Conway, and the host was Alan.
Alan Thicke?
No, not Alan Thicke. It was the other guy that was thicker than Alan, actually. Anyways, you're listening to some Meeting of Minds, and and I was there with Buddy Hackett, and they were asking about the origins, the origins of your comedy. And they all had great stories, but I think it all comes down to whether you came from a family that appreciated humor or a family that was very stoic, very.
Yeah.
And in my house, there was a lot of humor. My dad was a big kid, he always would tell us these little stories, and sometimes I use his stories on stage, but a couple of stories that I did about my dad, they weren't too racially apropos,
Because the times change, right?
Yeah.
It's funny. Have you found that with comedy, with the times changing? Like, have you ever done a joke and you're like, whoa, audiences aren't buying that right now? Like, this is...
Well, right now with the Me Too movement, you know, I mean, anything could be sexual harassment. You whistle at a girl, you'd be up in court. He was whistling, noticing my legs, but...
You're like, no, the tea kettle pot was going on.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's hard for Latinos because we're brought up to admire a woman's attributes, If you ever gotten by a construction site and...
Hey, I learned to whistle from growing up in Fresno. I'll do it right now.
All right. That's us.
I learned that,
Hey, you with the green dress. Yeah.
That's a skill to have too, by the way, to learn to whistle. Because if you're trapped, I always thought about that. Like if you're in an earthquake or something, God forbid, and they said that you can only yell, you can be like, help, and then eventually your voice is raspy.
Yeah, but if you can whistle, somebody will go down there and say, hey, there's a jaybird being stuck under.
There's a sexual harasser.
A sexual jaybird harasser. Yeah, it's hard, because you don't know what line to cross, but I think it'll revert to
Yeah.
I don't know. If somebody's going to go back in your history and say, well, this guy, he slapped me in the butt 40 years ago. Yeah, 40 years ago was accepted. There's always been men that are kind of
It's funny because I'll write it. I'll look at I think in print things look a little bit more harsh, if you will. Like I mean, I would tweet like jokes or put something on years like even like 2010. And I'm like, wow, I don't know if I would write that now because 9 years later it looks kind of like it could be taken out of context or just the way but.
I wonder what comedy will be 30, 40 years from now when computers are doing
dominating every. Because right now it's what we make fun of is like maybe the frustrations. You're in line at the store, or you're this or that, or maybe in the future you're doing everything online on your phone or whatever.
I guess I don't think there will ever be a computer that can find the idiosyncrasies of human beings. The things that make us laugh are the things that we have in common. All comedy really for me begins with a question, a question wondering whether this happens to other people. I remember when I was a kid, I used to always out in the fields, we used to sleep and it was real hot days and we used to get a pillow and I'd spend the rest of the night flipping the cool side of the pillow, but flipping it over until, you fell asleep or you woke up and there was a big old wet spot on your pillow. But, you always wonder if anybody else does those things, if anybody else worries about the things that worry. As a young man growing up in the hood in Compton, where my father eventually retired to, I was wondering if every kid went to school fearing for their life. It was like a war zone going on there with all these gangs and shootings. And after a while, you become acclimated to it. And when I moved out to the suburbs, I thank God I never heard my son coming over and going, hey, there was an arrest or there was a shooting in my school. And but in Compton, that was commonplace, and shootings and drive-bys and a lot of violence, unfortunately, gang-infested areas, But you hear about shootings, but now they all, it really doesn't make the news unless they want a body count,
Yeah.
What, only 3 people? No, that's not going to lead, It's unfortunate, but these are the days we're living in now. How do we get into that topic? It's not conducive to comedy.
But you're right, though. Your mind goes to these places where you wonder, can people relate to this? Like that, like you said, just the minutia, the little things about like the pool, the pillow being cool on one side, warm on the other. Like the other day, I was thinking about. Like I like to stay up late at night and watch YouTube exercise videos, and then
that's like porn for married people.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, here's a loophole. No, honey, I'm watching this woman. She's showing me.
Look, she's showing me how to get rid of my belly fat.
Yeah. But I'd watch these videos, but as I'm watching the videos, here's where I mess up. Like I'm eating like cheese and crackers or like peanut butter and I'm like, but I'm watching I'm like, oh wow, I never saw push-ups like that before, and I'm just like eating it. I'm like, I'm so fired up. I wish the gym was open right now. And I said something like that on stage. I go, am I the only one that does this? I hope I'm not. And then people laugh like they could relate, like it was that connections with people, these little things that you.
It is, comedy really begins with wandering, wondering if other people are like you. We live in these little capsules. You're from the country. You're from Fresno out there. I think we knew our neighbors better than we do here in the city. I've lived here for 20 years. I really don't know who's next to me. I know who's right next door, but I don't know who's after that. Over there in Fresno and Orange Cove, you knew who the neighbors were.
Yeah. By the way, as we're sitting here, I'm laughing only because you're next to that. To look at the top of that bush and tree, we'd have to look up at least 30 feet?
Yeah, that's about
feet?
60 feet. It's a compound.
This is amazing here, by the way. Not to get off the topic, but I remember the first time I came here, I think it was at night, and then the second time I came in the day, and I'm just like, wow, like this is like Fantasy Island or something. Like,
yeah, I've had a great time here at this house, and right now you're catching me probably at the last time. I'm leaving here. I'm gonna go back to Fresno. I want to go back to my roots. I'm gonna be moving. I had an opportunity. I'm going to talk to the dean there at Fresno State. I'm going to start a theater company there in Fresno.
Nice.
I guess I'm about to be 65, so I want to go into teaching and teaching theater. For the last 4 years, I've been doing theater here in Los Angeles and San Diego. And I've been doing a couple of plays, and I really got the theater bug.
That's cool.
It's really. I don't really think you can teach acting unless you've done theater. Theater is really the core of acting, because you have to work with others and remember an hour's worth of lines, and
Yeah.
that's going to be difficult.
You
but
never know what life leads you, because you'll still be able to perform at these
Yeah.
big venues. We did a big casino in Washington last year, and it was great.
Thank God for the casinos, man. The Indians, Native Americans is the correct term. They really opened a lot of casinos everywhere, so you could actually spend the rest of your life working casinos. There are so many. In a couple of months, I'm going to be going to Washington and Oklahoma. And it's a lot of tribes. Sometimes I think they're made up, People look into their genealogy. They go into Ancestry, go, I just found out I'm 1/14th Cherokee, which allows me to open a casino in my garage.
Right. Yeah.
So,
let's hire Paul to come down and do some comedy.
and, I'll be available, by the way, if you have a casino in your house.
Yeah, but you never know where you're like, and besides the stand-up, and then, maybe somebody will, that's what I'm saying, sometimes they say the power of no, but also the power of yes. We just don't know as entertainers where things lead to. Like I had the idea to do the podcast, and then here I am talking with you, and then maybe somebody will hear this, and then, and
well,
you just don't know where things lead to.
Well, once you get on the web, it's the whole business has changed. It used to be that the big studios had the power, When I first started, you're talking about A.K.A. Pablo, there were like 3 networks. You had ABC, NBC, and CBS. And if you were on one of them, you were seen. There was no such thing as cable or anything like that. But now there are so many other avenues. I don't think the studios have that kind of power. I think all the power is switched to the networks. You have Hulu and Netflix. That's where the power is. These are people that are making the movies. So it's changed. I don't know what's going to... I think also theaters are disappearing. People are staying at home. They're getting movies directly from the people who produce them right to your house. So.
No, I was reading the history of comedy. They were talking about like how people, there used to be this Orpheum Theater, like chain of Orpheum theaters, and these 2 guys owned them, and they would buy up these. And there was that's why sometimes in certain towns there'll be like 2 Orpheum theaters because there's the new one and then the old one, and they. And then sometimes they'd let like another circuit. They'd let them like survive and make a living. They're like, okay, they're not much of a threat.
Yeah, I don't know how that works, because like you used to have Thrifties,
right?
And now you have Rite Aid, and then right across the street you have another Rite Aid. Or it's like
Starbucks.
Exactly, Starbucks has become like ridiculous. I think people are going to start opening Starbucks in their own home. You have a franchise of Starbucks. I don't know where that's going. And then of course you got Amazon, who's now in show business also. It's a big studio. I think the future is one thing is certain, that things will change, and those who know how to work the change will succeed. And
just like you said, your mother saw, she knew when there was never planes, and then she saw airplanes, and then they land on the moon, and then same thing with stand-up.
My father never believed it, but my father was one of these flat Earth society. My father just, we didn't land on the moon. Are you crazy? And I go, Dad, Neil Armstrong, man, we landed on the moon. He goes, look. My father's logic was this. Yeah. He said, look at the moon. If there was a capsule going around the moon, wouldn't it look like a fly going around a light bulb? You would be able to see something. I'm looking at it, I don't see anything like that. I said, Dad, I think your technology is really wrong. But he never thought we landed on the moon. He thought that it was all filmed over here in
some
Death
people
Valley
feel that
someplace.
way, huh? Even back then, I guess they felt that way.
It could be. It isn't like, I come from the age where you believed, when Walter Cronkite said something happened, it happened. You took it as Bible.
Right.
Now, you look at the news and you go, well, CNN is totally against Trump, and then Fox is totally for Trump. So there are fake news. People are making up things.
Totally fake news, right? Like you look, sometimes I'll dig into a story, or you'll see at the very end.
Yeah.
They'll be like, and then, oh, by the way, the woman that got shot that was pregnant, she just told the cop she was pregnant. So, but then the headline will be like, pregnant woman shot by cop. But then you look a little further.
Pregnant woman shot by her own fetus.
Exactly.
How he was able to get a gun.
Yeah.
It's
But it's nice to. I'm just saying, it's nice with like the times, like going from never flying to the space to now. It's like, back when you started, it was like 3 networks, and now it's so many networks, so many things.
And you would think that the opportunities would be more, but it's all being taken over, conglomerated. I don't know where comedy's going.
That is weird though, right? Because I do think about that same thing about you would think that there'd be more. Because if somebody told you back then, like, Paul, listen, or maybe not right there, not right when there's 3 networks, but maybe let's say like in 1990, 91. You'd be like, yeah, I'm in this movie, and then guess what? There's going to be all these networks, there's going to be phones people carry around. You could do shows on there. There's going to be streaming, and
you don't have to go home to watch TV. You could do it on the phone. I mean, who would have thought that?
I know.
When I was a kid, I remember Dick Tracy having a phone that had a TV on his wrist. That was something way out of this world. But that happens. I just got back from Korea and Japan, and you go down to their big electronic market, and you see these wristwatches with a phone and a screen. You could actually watch television from your wrist. You know, what technology is beyond. Maybe it'll come to the point where they implant an antenna in your head, and you're getting the HBO directly to your head. You know,
Somebody told me yesterday, and their friend lives in Agora Hills, is in the music business,
Right.
blah blah blah, and somehow Spotify, I don't know, you know how rumors get started.
Yeah.
I might have the numbers wrong, but they gave him $500,000 to do a podcast out of his home and studio. I don't know. You may get something like that if that's something you ever wanted to do. Are you kidding me? If they said Paul Rodriguez his own show and you put out like a, you know, there's a guy named well, there's lots of
I got
them.
the pod. I just don't know how to cast it. You know, what I mean, the pod I understand.
Like Joe Rogan, he has his own compound,
Right,
you know,
right,
and then
yeah.
he's got the studio, and every day they're putting clips and this and that may be something that you'll.
Well, it boils down to who's listening to you. You know,
Yeah.
I don't think podcasting is for me. I think there are people that do it way better, like yourself. You know, there are people that have that interest. You know, for me, is basically. I think I'm gonna teach. You know, I'm gonna teach what I know.
Yeah.
And acting is something that I think will always be with us because the whole idea of recreating a story that is born in your head and then putting that on the theater is something that started with the Greeks, the theaters, the Athenians, and then it's like somebody explained to me. I've studied under Luis Valdez, but it wasn't Luis, but somebody explained to me that theater is like a book that you read for an audience, you know?
Oh.
You know, it's a story you tell, and a lot of people in these days of, nobody goes to libraries and reads, you know, they get all their information through electronics, or their books are coming into them and through their phones. But I think the story is something that can't be recreated by a machine. A story is something that the human of us has to live, you know, the pathos, what makes a human being cry or laugh. These are the mysteries, you know, because you can make an animal feel pain, but you can't make them. Can you really make them laugh? Can you really make them feel joy? And that's something that see what the future holds. But
Right.
as long as human beings are interacting, as long as we're being driven by the same angst of interaction between the sexes, interaction between your children and different ages, that's where really drama comes into. You know, the communication between a father, a son, a mother, and a child. You know, that sort of story. What makes a family a family? Even that is morphing into something that's really hard to predict.
Right.
Because you know, now you have a transgender and first gender. You know, I was in Japan, and you used to have two choices, male and female. Now you have a choice in the middle there, whereas like if you're not sure which way you bat, you go in this place, you know. And
Yeah. Did you try it? See what was in there?
no, I was too scared. I saw a couple of people coming out of there, and they looked scared. So it was like a house of mirrors in there. I figured I'll just go to over here where it says that if you have an appendage hanging out of you, you're a guy. You know, you go out there and use it. But
See, I used to have bright orange hair, and then I shaved it.
I noticed now.
Right? I tell people, I said, you know, I'm transginger.
Transgender.
Yeah, I'm transitioning from a redhead to a
to just a head.
to a head. Yeah.
You know, it's weird how you look at yourself. Pictures of yourself and you go, wow. I think that's why people are afraid to look at their high school photos, you know, because
Yeah.
you go,
I was a
man,
nerd.
look at that hairdo.
Yeah.
But it will. It'll change. I don't know what kind of old person I'm going to become. Hopefully not a grumpy one, but I guess I will be grumpy because I found out why old people are grumpy, because their body's hurting, one part of their body, and they look at young people do things that they used to do, and
It pisses them off.
yeah, I go, oh, damn it, I can't get my leg to do that no more. But
Do you remember the first time you were? Was it HBO? I forget the name of the show, but it was like a big HBO young comedian special or something.
Yeah.
Was that another big stand-up break?
Well, I was very fortunate. It was with Chris Albrecht, who was my
Yeah.
agent at ICM. And one day he called me in and he says, "Listen, Paul, I'm gonna start. I'm gonna be the head of this new cable show, HBO, and I'm gonna leave you here. But I'm gonna be at HBO, and if you want to come over and do a special, come on over." And of course, HBO grew up to be the powerhouse that it is now. And Chris Albrecht really was the brains behind it. You know, he left not too long ago, but he's the one that really put HBO on the map. Before then was Michael Fuchs, and I remember doing a 1-hour special for HBO, and at the time, it wasn't respected. You know, you wanted to get a HBO special, you wanted to get a special, you wanted to get it on the networks. But now, of course, the deal is to get on Netflix.
Yeah.
But as long as you put it down, and even that doesn't have the power it used to have. There are people that are out getting bigger numbers on YouTube than there are in the network shows.
Absolutely.
So it all boils down as to how many people are interested in what you got to say.
Yeah.
And if you have that kind of following, you could make a noise. I think if you have something interesting to say, and in the way you say it, if you're enlightened and people want to follow that light, then you will have an audience. I don't do much advertising now, but for small shows or for houses of 200 or 300, I'm very fortunate that people still remember, and I can go into a club and sell it out and pick up my ducats and go home.
And crush and do great. Kill.
Yeah, it's people always will have this feeling of nostalgia that you bring to them. You're part of their life in a way. They remember you somehow you affected them, and they want to hang on to that. So they come and see you and
there was a lot of young people there too.
Well, yeah, they're brought in by their parents, or they're brought in. They're told by you. There's 2 Paul Rodriguez's now.
This almost sounds like a bit. You have a funny way of talking.
Yeah, my people started calling me and says, "Man, I didn't know you were in that scary movie La Llorona," And I said, "Well, I didn't. Are you sure it's me?" "Yeah, it's you." And then I look at my IMBD, and where they listed me, and I go, "Man, I'm really in trouble now because I'm doing movies that I don't remember doing them." So maybe Alzheimer's really...
You were hanging out with Cheech and Chong too much.
What's going on, man? I'm smoking some really weird stuff. And then I go see my son. He goes, "Oh, yeah, I forgot to tell you. Yeah, I'm in that, I play a cop." And I went to see it, and he's pretty good at it.
I'm just picturing like 2 different audience members. Like half the crowd's older and half are younger, but then they have I'm picturing like baseball caps and skateboards.
And then the wheelchairs.
Yeah.
The wheelchairs are coming. When they're lining up with wheelchairs and what do you call those walkers?
Yeah. And
then it's time perhaps to when you're being sponsored by Dome's Pills. Or Metamucil. Paul Rodriguez brought to you by Metamucil, or Depends Diapers. You get those kinds of sponsors. Hopefully Viagra, but
hopefully that'd be a good.
That'd be a good. Stand up. Your stand up special by Viagra. Boy, you never sit down. Try us.
Yeah, stand up and don't be a dick.
Stand dick specials. But all that'll happen. I think it might even go. Life is circular. It might go back to where at the beginning of television, one company would sponsor a show. You had Westinghouse Theater, Colgate Comedy Hour, and they're starting to do that now. I've noticed that there are companies that are buying one whole hours or one whole shows.
Interesting. And you know what's interesting about that? In this book on the history of comedy that I'm reading, they said that in a way it kind of shaped comedy where the comedians would be filthy off stage, but on stage they would, because they wanted to keep working, so they'd be all clean.
Yeah, the dumbest thing I ever see is like when somebody bleeps profanity. They're like 13 or 14 bleeps. Profanity has a place, I think, but when it's overused, it loses the reason why they use it. I'm watching Def Jam, and black comedy has become like fuck and motherfuck. I don't know if I can use it. I guess I can.
Yeah.
It's like it'll be one constant bleep. Beep. How's everybody up in this beep? All right then. All right. I want to thank God. I want to thank Jesus for you beep uggers and thank you. It's a
God bless.
Yeah, God bless you all. And I guess that comedy, there's a place for it. I mean, it's a certain kind of rhythm,
right?
That has become part of their vernacular. But I've always looked at comedians as restaurants. You want to get some good soul food, you tune into Bernie Mac or something like that. You want to get some fast Mexican food to go. There's plenty of guys doing that. But one thing's for sure, change is constant, and you just gotta accept the fact that. You had a day. I mean, every dog has a day, and I had a week. So for that, I'm grateful, and there's no bitterness in me. I'm happy to have had my place in comedy.
Do you still get the rush when you do stand up when they please welcome Paul Rodriguez?
I don't. You call it a rush. I call it nervous. Because it's happening to me to the point where sometimes I'll repeat a joke and I go, "Whoa!" The audience doesn't laugh, and they always laugh here, and I go, "Oh man, did I say that?" And I asked them, "Did I do that already?" And they go, "Yes, you have." So you got to go, "Whoa, man! I got to get my brain cells together." But I think for me now it's more like a conversation that you have with friends.
Yeah,
you go
absolutely.
out there and you tell them, what what was your day like? What did you do? You know, what are you going through?
It's great to see you work.
And they're
because
interested.
You're so quick. You're so funny. And then there's moments you bring it down. I look in the room and you're sitting down on the stool, connecting with people, telling stories. And you're standing up. Then you're. I mean, you're just. It's full to see a great performer who brings it. You know.
You want to, you know, basically, for me, it's like somebody paying you to go over there and tell them about what's happening with you that day, and they're interested. You know, they want to know. You know, I have those moments when I go see a performer that I like. You know, I have to go to the cemetery, but you know, that's where my heroes are. But it's a conversation that you have with yourself, and such as we're having now. You know, there's probably people tuning in who go, hey, yeah, you know, I remember this guy. You know, your voice becomes familiar. It gives them a sense of security and commonality. You know, and it's a comfort zone. I call it. You know, that's what it is.
You were born to be a comedian. Either
that or a preacher or a minister of some kind. You know, I think,
dude, you're just so off the cuff. And I remember one time we did a show in Central California. They were trying to shut the water off to the farmers.
That fight's still going on.
Are they making headway with it?
Well, yeah, you know, I was the leader of the Latino Water Coalition, and it was our organization that actually passed the water bond in the middle of taxations. We asked the public to look at how important water is. Those of us that live out here in Southern California, because Southern California really shouldn't be this green, but it's the money that's here that attracts the water. But how water gets here, nobody ever worries about turning on the faucet and not having water. But you know, that water traveled way up from Mount Shasta and the Colorado River, and now the other states that are fighting for their share of the Colorado River. That's the big fight, the aquifers and then storing water. And water is going to be the next big fight in the Southwest, because America, the population is moving to the Southwest. They're tired of these crazy winters they have in Wisconsin.
California, do we have, is it 33 million people or something like that?
This state is approaching 38 million in the next, by the end, close of this decade, there'll be about close to 40 million people in this state. And they're all gravitating to this part of the world because of the weather. You know, you don't have to be a genius to be sitting there in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, watching the Rose Bowl. And you're freezing to death, and these people are out here with short sleeves watching roses and beautiful women in bikinis. You say, you know, let's go to the Greyhound bus station. Martha, we're done with this, you know?
Yeah.
But that creates problems. You know, each and every one of us needs eight gallons of water just for your maintain yourself, and that water has to come from someone. So there's going to be a lot of fight, a big fight to get that water.
I was at
here.
Griffith Park a couple of days ago, and there was this. You know how you read. That's another thing you do when you get a little older. You actually start reading these signs that
pay attention to them.
Like, oh, this is interesting. What's this statue all about? You know, when you're young, you're like,
oh, look, Martin Luther.
yeah. Let's tear this statue down.
Luther Vandross.
Offensive. But I'm reading this plaque, and it talked about like. A little bit about the water in the deserts in California, and it showed like a map. And you're right. If it wasn't for the water, the Death Valley and Mojave, like all that desert out there, that would basically probably be here too, right?
Every city, every major metropolis is the reason for it to be there is near a water source, with the exception of Las Vegas. Las Vegas is the only city that has grown exponentially without having a water source. You know, they have a Hoover Dam, but that's Lake Havasu, which is where they get their water. But the only reason for Vegas to exist, because it exists on the sins of man, you know, on the vices, right? Gambling and sex and entertainment and all these things. That's what attracts us to go down there. But every other city,
maybe you should go there instead of Fresno.
You know, I want to go to Vegas, but I would last there for about a month.
You're like, you know what? Forget teaching theater.
Yeah, you know, I'm going because eventually you have to go home. Yeah. I think at the end of life, you have to go home, and home is where your mom and your dad is. And that's where I'm going. And
I remember when we did that show, and it was great. It was just like out of a movie. You guys, we're in the middle of a football field. North of Fresno in some tiny town. I don't remember where. Huron. Is that okay? It was in Huron. And people were all around us. It was amazing. And then on the way back, we took the 5, and then my eyes, my contact lenses were just dry, and I got some dust in my eye. And we pulled over, and you were so kind. We went to like 4 different little truck stops, and I couldn't find any Visine. And I go, man, why isn't there any eye drops? I go, with all this dust and dirt out here, you'd think there'd be. And you go, look around. There's nothing to see.
People get used to it. You know,
They just leave the dust in their eye.
yeah, you know, there's nothing to see. Glaucoma is it's not a problem in those areas. But I got to know all the mayors of those cities. I just got back there. I was there last week.
It was awesome because you went up because so I remember I did comedy and I'm laughing, I'm doing my stuff and hip hop and country or whatever I was doing at the time. It's and I would do my bits and they're laughing and Snoop Dogg, wow, the big Snoop Dogg, the Digo Double G. I'm doing all this and then Harry Basil was another performer and he's doing costumes and running around like Forrest Gump and then you went up and you were the headliner and you were funny, but then you got to a point where you just started, like you said, talking from the heart.
Yeah, these are farmers, you know?
You connected, and they were cheering you on. And I remember on the way back, that's why I'm saying you're so quick-witted. You were born to be a comedian. I go, Paul, that was something else, man. That was just, wow, I wish I would have recorded that. And you just kind of played like, you go, you know what? I watch a lot of movies.
Hey, I've gotten to know those folks, John Harris, who owns Harris Ranch up there.
Oh, wow.
He's a big-time a farmer there. And, farming is still going to be... as long as people want to eat salads, there's going to be a reason why you have to have the San Fernando Valley, the San Joaquin Valley.
Yeah.
But believe it or not, that place could dry out. They're passing these laws. They have a bill, a House bill right now where they're trying to bring back the salmon to all these little streams.
Oh, my gosh.
And that would be fine, but it's going to come down to whether you want to have a stream with salmon or you want to have families there, and that water is going to have to come. I think eventually, as I see it, there's going to have to be a grid, like there's a grid for gas pipelines, where you see these floods happen in the Mississippi and the Midwest.
Yeah,
all this water is not going to run off to the ocean. They should be run off to places where they need it. They have there's a excess of water in Wisconsin and Minneapolis, the land of 10,000 lakes. Well, all that water is going to be siphoned off to where the people are.
Yeah,
and I think that's what eventually will happen. They'll have pipelines coming all the way over here because I don't see anybody moving out of California, regardless of the mismanagement of money, where they are charging these crazy taxes and forcing the average person that can't afford to have a house here.
I know they keep jacking everything up.
Everything. I make a good buck, and just the taxes, the city taxes, state taxes, and all of that. It just after a while, people can't afford it. So you're gonna have to find a place to live. And I'm not leaving for economic reasons. I'm just leaving because I have a farm up there in Fresno, and I'm gonna be like Green Acres, Brown Acres. So if people ever wonder what happened to me, I'll be making noise from over there. I'll be teaching, and hopefully we'll find some talent, and there'll be some actors and actresses that'll come here and make big noise that came from Fresno. Man, Fresno's got a lot of talent. I mean, you're from there. I'm from there.
That was my first big splash with celebrityism or whatever, celebrityism. But I did a local commercial and they put me on like 33 billboards.
Yeah.
And it was like, wow, okay, I'm getting recognized.
At the what is it? The Sertonian Theater.
The Soroyan Theater.
Soroyan Theater.
There's another great line I want to tell the audience. So I opened for Paul. We did a series of theaters, and one of them was in Fresno. And I remember when, or maybe it wasn't Fresno, but I remember we were outside the theater.
It's all Fresno.
Yeah, it's all Fresno. Could have been in Phoenix, wherever. But that was, by the way, Phoenix was great. Dodge Theater, 5,000 people, the screens. It was great. Okay, so we were on the road somewhere, and I remember we were backstage, and as the limo was pulling in, they opened the gate, and there was a guy standing by the gate, and he asked for I thought he was going to ask for an autograph or something, but somehow it came out where
it was a process server.
No. Somehow it came out where he maybe he wanted to be a comedian, or he was a comedian. Long story short, you gave him 5 minutes to do on stage, and I remember we were backstage, and I said, "Wow, that's so cool! You didn't even know that guy, and you let him do 5 minutes, like." Like some comedians are very guarded about that, and you were like, "No, you know what?" And you said something to the effect of, I remember what it was like to want to be on stage, and no one would give me a break, no one would give me a chance. So I like to give people a chance, And also, do you remember what you said? You go, and also, I want to show the audience this ain't easy.
Sometimes if somebody wants to do comedy and they get up in front of a big audience and they fall flat on their face, maybe that's the best thing you can do for them.
Yeah.
For them to find out that it isn't easy and this isn't their calling, and they should think about plumbing. They should think about welding. These are other professions that.
I think Mitzi Shore had some sign that I used to read. It's something about the worst sin is something about the worst sin a person can do is to encourage mediocrity.
Exactly. I remember that sign. The worst thing you can do to an audience is to offend them by putting somebody up there that didn't deserve their money.
Yeah.
You know, and money is what people give you for your craft. You know, money is a byproduct of your talent. It isn't guaranteed. And it's not always a measure of success. There are people that are very, very wealthy, and they're just not my cup of tea, but somebody's cup of tea, you know.
Yeah.
But it's the way they keep score. It all boils down to doing something that you can't help but to do, and then you just happen to get paid for it, you know. And if you can find a job in life that you love to do, that you don't consider a job, then you'll never work a day, you know. I remember meeting this old guy in Tuxpan in Mexico. We were shooting a film there with Russell Crowe. It's called Miracles. And here's an old guy, and he was doing these very intricate carvings, and it took him a whole day to make this wooden butterflies, and it was very intricate. I bought some. I'll show it to him. I have it inside the house. And he, I said, how much is this? And I think I paid something like 60 pesos, you know, which at the time was like maybe $4 or $5. And I'm going, you know, your labor, you took a whole day. And you only charge $4 really for this thing. How can you do that? He goes, Senor, I don't do it for the $4. I do it because this is what I do. So he wasn't putting the money to it. I mean, because there was no factory that you could do these intricate little butterflies made out of this balsa wood, you know. And you see the time that he took to make it, and you say, your whole day is worth $4. Well, it isn't worth $4. It's what he does. Nobody in this world can do what he does. It just happens that people aren't going to pay more than $4 for it. So you could say to yourself, either this guy is a fool and you should find something else to do, or maybe this guy really does have the secret of life because he happens to enjoy doing that, and it happens that it pays $4, and somehow $4 was enough. So the model of this story is, you should find something that pays more than $4.
Yeah, aren't we? Some days I wake up and I'm like, I'm so happy. Well, maybe not when I wake up. I wouldn't say when I wake up. When I go to bed, because my mind says different.
The day will come on. Just waking up, you'll be happy.
I woke up again.
I woke up. Ooh. Yeah. It reminds me of George Burns. He used to say, ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to be here, but at my age, I'm happy to be anywhere. Just happy to be. You know?
Yeah, I was gonna say what was I gonna? Okay, so there's days where I'm just on cloud nine, where I'm like, wow, I can't believe. I mean, I'm not that I can't believe, but I'm so happy that what you said, the what we do, that we're able to get paid to do it. You know?
Yeah, it's not.
And
I'm
glad that I'm glad that the glass ceiling isn't $4. I'm glad that it could go.
Well, very happy for that. $4 wouldn't allow me to live here, the kind of life I've had. You know, I was looking at my SAG pension fund. I didn't even know I had it, and then they sent me a letter saying, you know, in 3 months you're going to be eligible for our SAG pension. And I'm thinking Social Security, right? But that's another thing. And I remember complaining to my accountants a lot, going, man, how come all this money I'm paying the SAG after? What in the hell do they do for me? Well, folks, I know what they do for me. They save money because regardless of how crazy I was in my spending, they always kept a little something so that I won't be under a bridge. And now I'm going to get a tidy sum every month simply because somebody from SAG-AFTRA decided that while I was making the big bucks, they should take a chunk of it. Yeah. And now I'm going to be able to have a real nice life because somebody took the time to take that money from me. Right. Because I wouldn't have that money. You know, I would have, 90% of my money went to playing with the beaches and the alcohol, you know. And that didn't pay revenue. But
you had a good time doing it.
But I had a good time doing it. I don't regret anything. Yeah. At the end of life, nobody's ever going to care how much money you left. Right. Man, did that guy have a good time? That guy had a great time. You know, I got pictures of him going crazy here. I got pictures of, and in that respect, I'm a billionaire because I party not too wisely, but too well. And maybe that's what should be on my tombstone. It's a miracle that this dude lived this long. If you would have saw him do what I did, I had the drinking contest with Willie Barcena. You know, and I look back and I literally, Darren, I have been to every city of these glorious 50 states, every major and every minor city twice. I'm about to take off to Alaska again for my third time. Nice. I've been in Juneau, Anchorage, Livingston. I've been I've been everywhere. I've been Nebraska, Montana. I've been there isn't one state that I haven't been there at least twice. In some states, I've been there too many times, you know.
Do you remember the largest audience that you played in front of?
I do. It was Joe Robbie Stadium in Miami, and it was for hurricane relief. When Hurricane Andrew hit, it devastated. I remember getting a call from Emilio Estefan, Gloria Estefan's husband, and it was 90,000 people.
Damn.
And I was the host.
Wow.
And then for 2 nights, and the second night,
oh my God,
Sinbad came in.
Wow, 2 nights.
2 nights, and look at the lineup. They had the Bee Gees. They had
I love the Bee Gees.
yeah. They went out there. I remember introducing them. And
Did you talk to them at all? Or
I did.
They were.
They went, ha, 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 hey, Paul.
Is that how they said hi to you?
How do you mend the broken? Ha, ha, ha. I remember. I said, ladies and gentlemen, these people don't need introduction. They need a manly voice. And who else? Let me see. It was, it was Margaritaville. What's his name?
Jimmy Buffett.
Jimmy Buffett played, and it was the boss.
Bruce Springsteen.
Bruce Springsteen.
Bruce Springsteen.
Emilio and Gloria Estefan put on.
Did you meet Bruce? Did you talk to Bruce?
Yeah, I talked to Bruce. Yeah, I got him confused with Stallone. They're about the same height, you know. They kind of look like
I
each
can
other.
see that. Yeah.
And let me see. I was there. They had Jagger came in.
Oh wow, Mick Jagger.
Yeah, they had a tremendous.
This is huge, and you were the host.
And I was a host. And
so you're introducing all these.
I walked out there with Emilio Estefan's kid.
That sounds like a tough gig, by the way.
Well,
Could
you know,
be.
when it's that big, you lay out a joke and then you don't hear no response, and then when it hits, you're already into another joke. So you have to really slow it down, because 90,000 people was it was just too much for comedy. But when you introduce it, the Grateful Dead played, and who else played? Man, every big band you can think of played there, and it was 3 nights, and it was probably one of the crowning moments of my life to be backstage, and you said, man, you know, I hear I'm about to introduce the Bee Gees, man. You know, I'm about to introduce there were so many I can't even remember, but it was a stellar cast. I think everyone Emilio and Gloria invited was there, and it was a moment in my life I'll never forget. You know, although I'm forgetting who the bands were, but there was just some.
Because you're on the spot.
The Who.
Oh wow.
You know, I remember introducing the Who. Hey, guess what? You know who's gonna be up here? And we're, and I'm going. What you call it? The who? That's who it is. Who? Everybody say who. I got 90,000 people to say who, and they went out there and they did the when I was a young boy, I played the silver.
When I was a young boy, I played that.
The silver spoon or something like that.
Yeah, I played that. Yeah.
Silver ball.
Yeah, pinball.
Yeah,
pinball
wizard.
Yeah.
They did that, and then I think they closed out with who is that guy? The passed away, the crazy guy. We Are the Champions. What's his name?
Freddie Mercury.
Mercury.
Oh my gosh, from
Mercury.
Queen.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was just amazing. Huge.
The guy is so talented. Did you meet him?
Yeah, I met him. I know he doesn't remember because he's dead now, but I remember meeting him, and I remember, man, this guy needs some dental work, you know.
Yeah.
But he, they sang there. It was the biggest concert I've ever seen, and I think it was.
That guy was so talented. Freddie Mercury. I just saw Bohemian Rhapsody. We've seen it like 5 or 6 times. So good.
They played
It
was a huge event. Just to get backstage was traumatic. Joe Robbie Stadium. It's not even Joe Robbie no more. Now it's I don't know. It's an AT&T Stadium or something.
Yeah, they
like
probably
that.
have some. The Snapchat Stadium or something.
But that was about as close as I would say to Woodstock that I've ever been.
Wow.
And you know, from going from there to playing to 30 people.
Oh my God.
And I've also, of course, I went to Afghanistan and Iraq. I remember playing with Brittany Murphy. I guess one of the most touching moments of my life is seeing her, Brittany Murphy. We were outside of Mosul in Iraq, and I remember who's the guy?
Eminem.
What's his name? Wayne Newton. Wayne Newton was the head, and also Kid Rock was on that tour.
I love Kid Rock.
And we went out there. They didn't have no electricity, so Wayne Newton asked if anybody had a guitar out there because they couldn't play their electric guitars. Anybody had an acoustic, a regular guitar, and some soldier up there gave him a guitar, a low guitar, and he started to play Silent Night, and Brittany Murphy sang Silent Night. It must have been maybe, I don't know, maybe 8,000-9,000 soldiers all took a knee. General Franks came out there and he said a couple of words, and they couldn't have no spotlights, because they were afraid of somebody might shoot. So everybody was quiet. If you could imagine, maybe 7,000. I don't know. It was in the thousands.
Yeah.
Soldiers all took a knee, and Brittany Murphy, the late great Brittany Murphy, she began to sing "Silent Night, Oh What a Night." It was there wasn't a dry eye in the house, but it just got very emotional.
Oh man.
I'm taken back right now, and I'm getting a little verklempt, as they say, but that was one of the most moving moments, and I think there's a picture of me right next to her, and as she sang, your skin just became chicken skin,
Wow.
and
Just
all the
goosebumps,
I was never more proud to be an American.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you're a veteran. Air
Yeah, I
Force.
am. I'm a veteran. I'm a veterano. Yeah, I was in the Air Force. I did 4 years and 2 years reserve, which makes me a 6-year veteran of the United States Air Force. And all my buddies there, every once in a while, they call me up. The few of us that are alive, and I got to see a lot of places. I went to Afghanistan, and I went to Dubai, and all those areas. Kuwait, right after it fell. I went there with the late great Robin one time, one of the tours. I went there 6 times. Robert De Niro was there in one of the tours, and so many stars went.
You know what I want to say? Like, I really feel like the people you came up with, a lot of the stars, like Robin Williams and just so on and so forth, like, these were people that were really talented. And nowadays, it's sort of, they just kind of, just because someone's famous, I don't think they're necessarily that talented nowadays. Like, they may have figured out how to, like, get a lot of likes on something, and then someone puts them in something, and you know what I mean? Like, these are people. I mean, you're talking Rodney Dangerfield, like people that were
nobody
really,
gets up there by mistake. We can't criticize the young comics today that
not necessarily
that I don't know their
comics,
names, but they have big followings.
Yeah,
Good for them. Anybody that is able to get the attention of the public must have done something right.
Yeah.
Whether you particularly like them or not, or whether they make you laugh or not, you got to give them their due. I just know that I was very fortunate because I came up with some very, very iconic people that. Many of them are no longer with us, but just to be able to say that I knew Bob Hope in the flesh, and I met Lucille Ball in the flesh, and this is like Mount Rushmore,
Yeah.
I remember flying out of Burbank Airport, which is the Bob Hope Airport, and I remember the taxi driver going, Bob Hope, what is that? I said, it's the Burbank Airport. Oh, Burbank. Why you say Bob Hope? I said, well, that's the name of the place. He goes, no, who's Bob Hope? And I said, who's Bob Hope? Bob Hope was a giant, they named that airport after him, and I got to be on his special, and I got to go to his home, and
That's cool.
He was a very generous man.
I am his home, the one in Toluca Lake. I believe it's
Toluca
on
Lake,
ledge,
yeah.
And man, it must have been amazing to be inside there, like
Quite a compound,
because yours is a compound, but his is also a compound.
Mine would be like like his outhouse.
Like his, not even a guest house.
Yeah,
because he's on a golf course.
Yeah,
too, right?
he's got a golf course there. I think 9 holes.
Oh my
And
God.
it's very lush and beautiful. I remember having tea with him. I was trying to get back on NBC after being kicked out of there.
Yeah.
At a squabble with Mr. Carson, but he said, "Oh, Johnny, he has his moments, but we'll get you back in there." One call, and I was able to get back in there at NBC to do auditions. But he was a legendary man. Bob Hope was he's part of Americana. I mean, I think it was President Johnson who said he had lost Bob Hope's confidence. That's why he didn't run for president for a second term. If Bob Hope didn't want him, he sends him running.
Wow.
So that's quite an influence what a comedian would have on world politics. I think America loved him, and I think what Bob Hope and I had in common is that we were both immigrants. He had a green card,
From England.
from England, and he always enjoyed young comics, and he did the last Christmas special. He put me on, and I walked into the green room, and there was Lucille Ball, and my jaw just dropped, and I go, "Oh man,
Wow.
I've heard this woman all my life,
Yeah.
And I sat next to her, and she held my hand, and she talked to me for about 3 hours, man. I had this woman talk to me for 3 hours. I wish I would have recorded it, but I
I was going to say, I was like, I got to hear that podcast.
recorded it in my mind. She
Yeah.
talked about her. I've always liked Latino men, Desi and I actually became pretty good friends with Desi Jr., and I don't know where he's at, but if he's listening to me, how are you, buddy? He's a good guy. He's a big fan of comedy. She talked about their romance and how he was a womanizer, but I said, well, that comes with being Latino. But she really loved him, and just to talk to her, man. I think back, my memory takes me back to that day at NBC Studios, and to have Bob Hope say, "Here's a young comedian from East Los Angeles, Mr. Paul Rodriguez," and I come out there and I did my show, and I remember going home and all excited, telling my mom and dad, I just worked with Bob Hope, and my father goes, Bob Hope, Bob Hope, the guy with the funny nose like that. No, and I said Lucille Ball. He goes, Lucy. Lucy. And I turned to my mom. He goes, "Hey, Maria, he met Lucille Ball. I love Lucy." No, he didn't. Yes, he did. and I said, "Yeah, it's gonna come on TV." And he goes, "Well, maybe he did pick the right career. If anybody that meet Lucy, he's on the right track." But
that's beautiful.
Yeah, that's one of the.
Paul, two things. I would love to have you back on the Pocket Party podcast.
Yeah.
I'd love to have you, and I'll come to you. We'll figure something out. We'll make it happen.
Yeah.
You have so many stories. We've only scratched the surface. The second thing, in closing, is there? I always ask the guests if they have any words of wisdom, anything they've learned along the way in living in life that they'd like to pass along to some of our younger listeners, or just people in general.
Yeah, I think stubbornness is a wonderful attribute to have, because it's anyone who's ever done anything in life, they were stubborn, whether it was Columbus, whether it was Steve Jobs, you just have to go into your own mind and to say, this is my life, and I found what I want to do. I want to do this. And I want to do it until the wheels fall off. And I don't know what everyone listening to me right now, what your life is, whether you want to make dresses or whether you want to design cars or whatever it is you want to do. Stubborn. Be stubborn. And you mix that with a little bit of passion, and I guarantee you a bright future. That's the formula.
That's it. God bless you, Paul. We'll have you back on. Thanks for being on the Pocket Party.
Okay,
podcast.
Rooster. Anytime.
You got it, buddy. That was awesome. Thank you.
Hey, welcome.
I'm stubborn. I'm not leaving.
No, you gotta go. Hey, Ramon, get this guy out of here.
We're done with this interview.
Well, look at you. You made it all the way through. Thank you, guys. If you want to hear more podcasts like this, more episodes, check out pocketpartypodcast.com. You know how it is. No, did I just say a .com? It's not really a .com. Just go to Pocket Party. You already know how you found this one, so you could find the rest. What do I got to break it down for you? But we got a lot of great episodes. Check out Brody Stevens. He did the podcast. Great guy. Great conversation. God rest his soul. It was one of the last interviews he did that week. Great guy. I want you to listen to the episode called Bronx Bookie, Vietnam Vet, Nightclub Owner. That's a great one with Billy O'Connor. So many good ones. Josh Robert Thompson episodes are fantastic. It says episode 58, Avengers Endgame, but we talked about so much more on that, and I think you guys would really dig that. That was a great conversation. And I want to thank everybody for donating and creating songs and sending it to us and all that good stuff. You guys are awesome. We'll see you next week. And next week we got Candice Michelle from the WWE, cover of Playboy. Oh, it's going to be a good one. All right now, don't hurt nobody. Okay, don't hurt nobody. Darren, be careful. Be careful and don't hurt nobody. We'll see you next week. Get your jollies.
Everybody listen to Darren Carter. We all know he's the party starter. So if you want to listen to a podcast for free, then listen to the Pocket Party.